start with what made you want to serve? What motivated you to want to serve anybody? And we'll just sort of go around and...
I'd like to hear her version of that.
Well, the thing that motivated me is I was a senior in college, and my advisor got called up because he was in the reserves, and he came by and started it. And Jerry, I think you'd like this when you get out of school next week. And I had
And this was World War II?
World War II, 1943, at Oklahoma State University, which was Oklahoma A&M College then. And I had a little niece that was 6 months old, and they were talking about fathers being drafted, but if enough people enlisted, maybe fathers wouldn't have to be drafted. They said something about, you could enlist here and make your future, and I thought, I'll see what that is. Well, by the time I left up there from talking and in being interviewed, I'd been sworn in. Oh, it happened pretty fast, but I was not sorry. I had 1 2-hour class in photography, and when I finished basic, I kept waiting for my future assignments, and then suddenly my name appeared on the board, and I was to go to Lowry Field to photo intelligence school. Eventually, when the boys all got sent overseas, we got split up. The girls did, and I was lucky enough to get sent to the Pentagon to the photo intelligence lab, where I worked with all top secret material, or at least restricted, and that was the kind of thing we did all the time, was the trimetric photography and things that were top secret, and portraits of the generals that wanted pictures taken.
What were some of the other things that motivated you all to serve?
For his motivation, his Uncle Sam motivated me.
He did.
So.
You know, it's early 1951, and what motivated me was the draft board calling me. Yeah, she was talking about when they dropped the nuclear bomb.
Yes.
And that's very interesting.
Well, of course, that was just a one-time thing. All the rest of the time, it was just bombs.
But, you know, I wasn't... a big laugh I got one time. You never heard of the cannon that they built, the atomic cannon? It's real long, and I met it coming down the highway. And they took it on the base, and they had guards all around it at night, walking around that huge, big old cannon. I said, how in the world could anybody steal that, you know? But we'd get up. We're about 60 miles away from the point for the nuclear bomb, because they were testing out there. At that time, Desert Rock is where they were testing it. And we'd get out there, and we'd see the mushroom, and then we'd hear the blast a little bit.
How about you, San Antonio?
Well, I was in my first year at college at Oklahoma State, which is Oklahoma A&M College, and a high school friend of mine had talked about the Naval Reserve. He said it seemed like a pretty good deal. So when I got back to Stillwater, I went out there and talked to them. And at that time, you had to join reserves before you're 18 and a half, or you couldn't join. And I was coming up on 18 and a half, so I joined. And I stayed there at college. I thought about going on active duty. That was the end of the Korean War. That was in 1954 when I joined. But I stayed in college, and in 1959, I graduated and decided to try for the Navy's Officer Counter School. And I got accepted to that, and I finished that, and was assigned to Pearl Harbor. At that time, they had a DEW line, a distant early warning line that we were out there that had ships to man stations to intercept or detect if the Soviets were to attack the United States. In 1960, they reduced that, and the ship that I was on and another ship was sent to Guam. I'm a veteran, but I have a lot more respect for veterans that went into combat and came back, and those that didn't come back also.
Harold here, his dad was in World War II, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Martin Sr.
Probably the motivation for me was, I don't know, I just thought it was family tradition, something you do. And my dad was a veteran. I have uncles on both sides of the family that are veterans, so. But the only thing different is that I didn't want to join the Army because my dad had been in the Army, okay? Just wanted to do something different. Certainly wasn't going to be the Navy either, okay? That's too much water.
His dad he used to work for this Busby Ranch, his dad. And they used to go to a store over there, and they think all Indians like bologna. so I said, we got some new, fresh bologna over here. He said, I like my meat with bone in it. That's what his dad said.
That would have been my dad, but my dad was. He had been captured just before the Battle of the Bulge or during that time.
Your father was?
Yeah. Yeah, his dad, yeah.
And he spent, my grandmother was telling me that she'd got a letter, Western Union, and she was living here on Tullahoma, and she couldn't read English. So there was a man that used to be a county commissioner just off the highway here. He came and read that Western Union, and he was listed as missing in action first.
Yeah.
And then sometime later, she got another Western Union telegram saying that he was a POW. I had the opportunity to meet a couple of people that my dad was actually in a POW camp with. And they'd tell me some things about the food that they ate or
Or didn't eat.
or didn't eat, yeah. But but both of them told me that it was because of my dad sharing whatever he had or just giving it to them and going without so that they would have something to eat. So that was kind of like one of the things that I look back on as probably the motivation for me staying in.
Whenever I went in there straight out of AIT, there was 340 of us all went to Vietnam, except 3. I think there was one guy went to Germany, and the rest of us all went overseas to Vietnam, all on one plane.
You know, sometimes when you're in the military, you get special assignments. And it was just a little bit before I got out in 1955, and I was in headquarters squadron, and the general called us in there and asked us about this special assignment for 2 or 3 days. He looked at me and I said, I'll go. And the other guy said, we'll go. And then he unfolded what our plan was. In 1955, you know, they had Tournament of Champions there at Las Vegas, and we were going to be the marshals at the Tournament of Champions. So I got 3 days to eat with the generals and all the people there, you know, and the other guys too, you know. We got to wear the armbands and watch the crowds, and then I think Bob Hope and Walter Winchell had their time there too, you know. But it was 3 good days.
When I was in Vietnam, where those bombs, they dropped them bombs from B-52s, but you couldn't see them up there. They'd just go boom, boom. You could see them way over there, and where they hit on the ground is bigger than this whole circle here. It made a definition in the ground bigger than this whole circle.
But it was during those B-52 bombing runs that we referred to it as a giant walking.
Yeah.
Because once it started.
Oh, it just kept walking. I went to Vietnam, and I had 2 brothers who went too. My uncle was in World War II, and then my grandpa, he was in World War I. But I had three of us boys went to Vietnam. I know they killed a lot of American boys, I know. 50-some thousand. My folks used to watch TV every night to see if I was on there.
Did you ever feel, any of you ever feel treated less when you were in the military because you were Chickasaw?
No. They treated everybody bad.
Well, at least if we come back, it was pretty bad. It was just because I was in Vietnam.
Oh, yeah, over there, it's kind of like freewheeling over in Vietnam.
Well,
you didn't have to dress this way or dress that way, or shine your boots.
The people here, though,
Yeah, he come back. He had
was protesting, called us baby killers.
Yeah.
In California, I flew back in through there, so it was kind of rough.
So while you all were there,
They were protesting
you
here.
could give your life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
But,
people were protesting
Yeah.
here,
But-
similar to what we see happening today.
but we had no choice, you know.
Yeah.
Back then, you had respect for the government, and
Yeah.
they told you to do it, you do it.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I learned was discipline, I think, of being in there, and it grew me up fast. I was 19 over there.
Well, Jerry, you have to share with us your adventure when you were in the dark room. Did you know? Can you tell us?
Oh,
Tell us what happened.
Well, I mean, we got these huge rolls, you know, like we were used to, and I was over this big printer, which did 20 by 24 prints, and I could see this, and there wasn't anything there practically and I was yelling at the girl that was working with me, get over here and look at this, what do you think? And we had Captain Masick was in there with us with a sidearm, so I should have caught on a little before it came up. But on that first one, but I could not believe what you could see when you finally got down to where after the bomb had hit. When you got down and saw the utter devastation that was left on the ground from where it hit. It was like the streets were there and then piles of rubble. And, you know, we were used to seeing hunks of buildings gone and things like that, but never had we seen that kind of destruction. And I said we knew it was something big because of the circumstances that we were working under. We also knew that it gave us a good chance of getting rid of the war and for our fellows to come home.
You know, I keep thinking now, that was the atom bomb.
Yes.
You think about the terrible devastation of a nuclear bomb today.
Of what it would do after that one.
Because
Yes.
they're just 5 times as great as...
I just can't imagine.
Yeah, can't imagine.
They were only dropped in
Tragedy
Japan.
bomb.
Just 2 of them were dropped.
Yeah, just 2.
Just 2 were dropped in Japan.
And we had sense enough to stop the war. Well, there were a lot of kids out of my college senior year that did not come home from the war.
Being a mother of 2 sons that are currently serving, I have this mixture of feelings. I'm happy for them. I'm proud of them. I pray for them. But being a mother, I'm also sometimes consumed with fear and worry. What were your families like when you told them, Harold, especially you, when you did I think the very opposite of what your mother said?
I had a pretty good idea where I was going. It's just that I really didn't want to tell my mom that I was going back a second time. I tried to tell her, I said, I'm okay, Mom. I'm not in any kind of danger as most of them are. No, but I said, I feel like that's what I need to do, is because I'm trying to do certain things, and I said, I'm good at it, and I said, I like it, so I want to go back. And when I told her that when I was leaving, that's when I really saw the impact that it had on her.
I don't know. I didn't ever think about getting shot or killed. I just, you know, it was just part of it. I mean, like everybody else, I was scared, but it wasn't something I dwelled on. And, you know, I always think there's a time and place for everything, and that's including death. So I figured if it's my time, I was going to get it. I was going to, you know, it was time.
I went, and I come back, and my brother went and came back, and then my youngest brother went and came back.
To Vietnam?
Yeah, all 3 in Vietnam.
Any closing thoughts as we wrap up our story this evening?
I would like to just say that if it wasn't for the military, I got to go to Japan, Alaska, Hawaii, and I was at Guam. So if it wasn't for the military, I would have probably never got out of the United States at all. So
May not have gotten out of Marshall County.
That's about right. So, you know, I'm thankful for that.
Well, you know, you head out, go in the military. You never know what awaits you. Then you end up 3 to 5 years, whatever it is, you know, where you're going to Vietnam, you know, with Agent Orange. You know, a lot of these guys were hurt so bad. And, but you're on your way back home. The prayers of the people behind you. You know, when I went in, I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know really where I was going to end up. But I was so thankful.
I've seen the red, white, and blue in a lot of different places. And like others, it always made an impact on me.
Take me back to Cullihoma, that's probably what you said.
And because this is home for me in this area here, because my family's been here since the removal. The earliest is probably about 1862, 63, somewhere in there, you know, and we're still here. So this is...
Oh, Hickory sent Unconquered down to Oklahoma, didn't he?
Yeah, this is home for me.
Well, the warrior spirit of the Chickasaw people that we
Amen.
all have in common is very evident.
It's there. And that's pretty good representation here with the Army, Marines.
Yeah. Oh, he was Marine.
Marines, you're the Army?
Army.
Women's Army Corps.
Women's Army.
Navy.
Navy.
Army.
Army and Air Force.
Very good representation.
Man.
Gentlemen and ladies, thank you so much for giving us some time.